someone who has faced many a mountain and made it to the other side, will be sharing his story, and he's Zooming with us now. Alan Scott, thank you so much for being with us.
Hi, Heather. Thanks for having me.
Well, let's learn a little bit about Alan Scott. You have a pretty interesting story.
Yeah, I am. I was a drug addict, a dropout, a thief, and I have all the wrong things on my resume. But my story is that God was bigger than that, and He can turn any mess into a message. And so I was a drug addict, actively using until I was 21 years old, and was locked up, was in multiple drug and alcohol rehabs, came out of a kind of a crazy home life. And when I was 21, I had a moment of clarity, and the police helped me have that moment of clarity because they finally caught up to me, and I got locked up. And it was then when my life began to turn around, and I began to have a new chapter, a new start in my life.
And now you're using your story to help others who may be facing similar circumstances or not, but we can learn so much from other people's their life events, their stories, and that's kind of what you're bringing to Hoopeston this weekend. The story tour is making a stop there in town. So what is this event all about?
Well, first of all, I'm glad you said Hoopeston because I thought it was Hoopeston. So Hoopeston, that sounds better to me. But so the story tour, like over the last 15 years, my band has gotten to travel the country, and I've gotten to share my story with thousands of people. And I was always amazed at how they would come up to me, and because they heard my story, they began to share their story and would share their struggles. And my story was just about drug addiction and being set free from drug addiction. But I began to think, what about someone who's dealing with, what about someone who has a marriage that's blowing up? What about someone who's thinking about ending their life? What if we could capture a bunch of stories and put them together into an event? And so that's what we did. And so the story tour is really a night for anybody who is struggling with anything. The message of the story tour is that with Jesus, your story isn't over. And so we cover, there's a pastor named Travis Habershon. He's all tatted up. He'll be there. He is our tour pastor. And he tried to kill himself 15 years ago and had just an amazing experience and has a story about how God brought him out of the other side. And my story, as well as several other stories. And it's a very three-dimensional show. It's kind of like a Broadway show and a concert and a movie. We tell these stories in a bunch of different ways, but the band, my band, Alan Scott Band, plays a live soundtrack for this event. And so it's an event that we're hoping will encourage people who are hurting, addicted, and struggling, and really give them hope and let them know that they're not too far gone.
And speaking of your band, you have played with some pretty big names out there.
I have. I'm hoping it'll rub off on me.
You know what? I think it already may have. Well, we wish you the best of luck as you travel here to Central Illinois. And it's going to be a great night of sharing those stories of things that people may have thought were impossible. But as we know, with God, all things are possible. And it's going to be a great night of fellowship and uplifting one another, encouragement. It's happening this weekend. Let's kind of quickly give everybody the dates and times and how they can get tickets.
Yeah, so September 16th, you can correct me if I'm wrong, but it's at the McFerrin Park Civic Center, and the doors open at 6. The show starts at 6:30. You can get your tickets by going to www.thestorytour.org. So www.thestorytour.org.
Got it. All right. Well, thank you so much for being with us, and we hope you have a great visit here and the work that you're doing here. We appreciate it.
Hey, thank you, and thanks for having me, Heather. I appreciate it.
You're welcome. If you want to learn more about the story tour coming to Hoopeston, or you want to get details on how to get those tickets, we'll have the link posted over at our website, ciliving.tv.